Welcome to the Landscaping Podcast. My name is Joel Barnett and I'm your host. And in today's episode, I'm talking with Rob Cooper from Distinctive Gardens and Landscaping. Now, Rob is a landscape designer based in South Australia and also, until recently, did construction. And he's been an icon of the industry in South Australia for more than 20 years. So it was awesome to have a chat to him. I've been following him for a long time. And he's designed a garden that he's going to be building at the Melbourne International Flower and Garden Show coming up in March, along with Yergan Landscape and Desert Flower Landscape. So we talked plenty about that. And during the chat, he spoke about how early on in his career he was originally just installing turf, and he wanted to work more into high-end landscapes. And then he did a garden show in Adelaide and got just one client from it, who then gave them work over the next 10 years. So you never know what can come out of these types of garden shows. Like, you might not get swamped with work, but it can just be that one person can make a big difference. Another thing that Rob did was build a art installation that got sent over to Venice in Germany for an exhibition there. So, and he went over to help install that too. So he's got a bit of experience doing some different kinds of things outside of the normal landscape design and construction. So I think that should go pretty well in Melbourne. And he's also mates with Ian Barker, who's got a fair bit of experience building garden shows. So good mentor to have. And we speak about Rob's getting contractors to build his projects now and how he likes designing different things into his projects. So it's just not just unique cookie cutter kind of stuff, but he's also keen on communicating with the contractor so that they're not just getting excited and doing that special thing and not making money on it, but they're actually looking after the client and making money as well. So made some good points there, and it was just an awesome person to chat to. So hopefully you enjoy this chat with Rob Cooper. Rob, thank you for joining us on the Landscaping Podcast. My first question for you is, how did you start in the industry?
Wow, I started in the industry actually with my old business partner. I used to be concierge and I was sick of doing that. And he ran a commercial landscape company. So I went and worked there for probably 3 years. And then we went and decided to start our own business together. But I grew up in the nursery industry. My parents owned a nursery. So I've sort of been in the industry a fair while. Yeah, a long time actually.
So when you started that business with the commercial guy, was it staying in commercial that you started the
No,
business?
we went out and just got a small sort of subcontract business where we went and installed like lawns actually, and so we just went around, just replaced lawns everywhere. It was just it was a good little money making business, but it got to a point where I was sick of just doing lawns and I wanted to diversify and start going into sort of higher market sort of landscape projects and just work my way through the industry like that. Yeah, so we
Was there a
sort of split
partic-
our business up. Yeah.
was there any particular type of lawn that you were doing more than others?
This is back in the day when fescue was really popular and stuff
Yeah,
like that. You know what I mean?
that's where
Like,
I was heading.
yeah, and that's like wow, 25 years ago, I reckon, is almost to the date. So this is about my 25th year of business this year. So
Yeah, that's all we did when I started. Probably the first maybe 3 years, I think. All we did was
yeah,
lay tall fescue. And like every now and then, one job you might do cooch or something, and
yeah,
compare, and it looks horrendous when you lay it compared to the tall fescue where you can't see the lines.
oh,
And then,
absolutely,
and then
yeah.
the drought happened, and then now we never do tall fescue.
Oh, you can't even hardly buy it. Like, I think there's one supplier you can get it from, but it's almost rare as hen's teeth. But the amount of water you just have to watch yourself putting onto it, you can
Yeah,
understand why we don't use it.
yeah. So how did you
Yeah.
start getting into those iron projects, going from turf?
Just through working in the industry, I do remember probably the biggest break I had. Like I was lucky enough. I got work just through word of mouth and friends and stuff. But I actually did an ABC garden show, actually the first one in Adelaide, and I ended up doing that. And from that, I picked up a really good client, which we would have had for 10 years, and I reckon that would have been, I don't know, $500,000 worth of work over 10 years, which is a nice one back then. And then I picked up a company called Scott Salisbury Homes, or still is a really high end building company, and I ended up getting all theirs and doing all their lottery homes and stuff like that. So the exposure from that was really, really good. So you sort of got that natural exposure throughout without having to advertise and stuff like that. So that was always really important.
And we getting your plants from your parents for your
Nah,
job?
my parents had a nursery on Kangaroo Island,
All right.
so I grew up there. So nah, but we we've got some great little nurseries. Like one of the nurseries that's supporting us over in Melbourne, he's supplying basically all the plants. They've been a long time supplier, so it's just great to. You have them in Melbourne as well. We've just got some really good long-term suppliers that we've used for a long time, and to get their support in Melbourne, it's just great to give a little bit back to them. Yeah.
Yeah, we'll talk. So you're talking about because you're doing a garden show this year with a crew from South Australia, and I did like when I saw that you listed all the sponsors that you're using, like a lot of
Mm.
South Australian companies, including the nursery. Like I
Yeah,
like, yeah, doing that.
it was very important to us. Like I sort of, for me, I just think it'd be good to showcase South Australia as a landscape industry as well. Like we've got some amazing landscapers here, and we've got some great guys on our team as well. But I just think we do really good stuff here, and our suppliers are amazing as well. And I've used, like I said, Jeffrey Sauls, for example. I've used them my whole career, and it's just nice that they've supported us in this venture. So it'd be good to use their materials and products just to, yeah. So that's probably been very important to us. Yeah.
So how long ago did you start thinking about this garden?
The day after the show last year.
Yeah,
So
so
I sort
relatively
of,
soon.
yeah, well, I remember driving, so I drove over to Melbourne for it. Was working on the property halfway between there. And I went, well, if I'm going to do it, I'm going to do it now. So I think I rang 4 people, and each 4 person that I rang, they said, yep, we're in. And that was probably by the end of the trip back from Melbourne. So it was like, all right, we'll give it a go. So then we've been planning since, yeah.
And so who are the other companies you're involved with?
So we've got Yergan Landscapes, who have done a lot of the. So I conceptually designed it all, and then Jason sort of developed some of the structures, like the structure and the pond up, but from the design, and he loves his detail and stuff, which he's very good at. So he's key to have in the team. And then Tali with all the plants, and then I've got Desert Flower Landscapes who are coming in doing all the stonework and everything like that. So and they're very good at their natural sort of landscapes.
And what's the show garden called?
We called it a SCAP.
Right. Because I've seen it
So
written, but I don't know how to pronounce it.
yeah, I'll call it a SCAP. Like, to me, it means escape. So it's somewhere where you can just go and escape. But it's meant to just look really cool on a t-shirt. So
Well, it does.
so that's half the reason behind it. Like, I like the name, but I also think I just like how it looks. So
Yeah.
I think I just developed that name before I did all of the garden. But
Is it a
that's just
is it a
part of
language?
it.
It's another language.
I think it's French, but I was just writing escape, and the thesaurus on the internet, and that sort of popped up and went, yep, that looks pretty good. That's what we're going to roll with. So
And when did you finalize the design? Like when were you thinking of that on the drive back from Melbourne as well?
it's actually evolved a bit. Like I've always had a garden in my head that I'd like to build over there, I think. And then I had I don't know, I just conceptually designed it. And then like I said, we're lucky enough to have a bit of a mentor through it all. And like sort of looking at the judging criteria, we were probably doing more in one area than we probably needed to. So we sort of changed it back to sort of obviously do the garden we really wanted to do, but also then design it a bit around the criteria so that, the plants is the major focus, and we've got some key structural elements in it. Yeah.
Yeah, that's
So
one of the most underrated things is thinking about the judging criteria and sort of designing around that. Like it's
yeah,
almost like that's your client.
well, that's what we've tried to sort of base it around, and that's sort of what we hope we've done. So it's a case of we don't want to like for us, like you said before, it's a long way from Adelaide to Melbourne. So if we're going to do it, we want to make sure we're sort of trying to fulfil the criteria the best we can, as well as build an amazing garden. So I think that was the hardest thing to design, is to try and design around what would be different, because we're trying to do a really different style garden than we normally do, but also have some really striking elements, but also then hit criteria of judges. So yeah.
And I've seen posts over the years when you've popped down to Melbourne and hanging out with Ian Barker and some other crew. So you've obviously got a good friend to bounce ideas off and get some advice. He's done a couple of garden shows there.
Yeah, he's just I've been going to MIFGS for years, and I love going there, and I've always wanted to do it. And like I said, if I didn't do it this year, I probably wouldn't do it. And so I don't have regrets in life, but probably if I did, I'd be disappointed that I didn't do it. Probably would be more the word. So yeah, like I said, we've been fortunate enough to have sort of a bit of feedback from him for some ideas that may be okay and maybe not. But we've also gone with some stuff that we really believe in and some materials that we think will be different. I don't want to do the same thing that I never do in my gardens anyway. I just don't want to do the same sort of style of garden that everyone else does. So we're trying to challenge ourselves as well. So we think we've done a nice combination of a few things, but we'll try to leave a couple of things hidden out of what we're going to do, so we don't show everyone what we're going to do. It'd be nice to have that element of surprise when they rock up and see some things. Yeah.
Yeah. And when you mentioned the ABC garden show that you started with, was that like a home show kind of garden show, or was that
Yeah,
like
it's like a home show. It's like at the Wavell Showground state.
Yep.
So that would have been like 20 years ago. I did that. I reckon.
Yeah.
Like it's a long time ago.
Have you done anything similar to that since then?
I've done. I did one in the Wavell Showgrounds about 3 or 4 years ago. We did one. I did a really cool piece of street graffiti art and built the whole garden around some street graffiti art. So I remember Daniel Tyrrell did a laneway in Melbourne one year, and I thought that was really cool. So I sort of didn't base it by that, but I just loved the idea of the striking colour there. And a lot of your clients won't let you do something like that. It was great to see people stand back and go, "Gee, I love that," or "Gee, I hate that." But which is sort of half the reason why you did it, just to see what reaction you could get. And I've been fortunate enough. I did a project in Venice and in Germany. I helped build an art installation over there, so that was pretty good to be able to build it here and ship it over there. So I've had a bit of experience in doing sort of some reasonable shows. Yeah.
What did you say you built?
I built a pond. So the La Biennale Art Festival in Venice, I built a 30 metre by 3 for an art exhibition, and we shipped it from Adelaide over to Venice and put it in there, and it had to be in an art display for 6 months over there.
All right.
And then we packed Venice up, and then I did one in Germany as well. We did a smaller one in Germany, which was great.
So how did those two jobs come about?
Amazing clients that I've worked with over the years. They passionate farmers as well as art lovers, and I did their house in Adelaide. And I remember saying to James at the time, I said, "So what crazy project are you working on now?" And he wanted to fill up half an art gallery in South Australia, and no one would build the pond for him. I said, "I can build that for you." And he goes, "Rightio, well, give us a price." So I gave him a price. We did that, and he goes, "We want to do Venice. Will you go to Venice?" And I said, "Sure." So that's how that happened. So it was such a good, amazing experience. Yeah.
So did you take your crew over there, or did you sort of send over what you built?
No, I prefabbed it all here in sections and shipped it over, and I basically could make it all by myself over there.
All right.
Yeah. So yeah, it was a good challenge. Like there was a few challenges with that. Like the boat was late, so we only had like 4 days to end up putting it all together before the installation or the art got opened. So it was pretty tight towards the end, but that's okay.
Well, Melbourne's a piece of cake then, compared to going
No,
to
I don't know
Venice
about
in
a piece
Germany.
of cake, but I have had a little bit of experience, but we'll see how it goes. Yeah.
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 So going back to your partnership, so when you went into doing the high-end projects and targeting them, were you still part of the partnership then, or did you sort of?
No, we'd broken up by then. Yeah.
Yep.
Yep.
So how did that go? Did you have employees that you took? Like, was it just the two of you, or did you start looking for employees?
I'm pretty sure I started looking for employees straight away. Like when I had my business partner, there's probably only 3 of us. So he kept one of them, and I just basically employed straight away. Like I didn't probably got less staff now than I've ever had, I think.
All right.
So I've only got one person that works for me 3 days a week, which is great. But planning Melbourne as well as running a design and doing construction as well you can imagine it's hectic, but it's good.
So you've been doing design and construction. So are you doing construction still?
Sort of. I'm winding that out. So it's probably why it's so busy now, because I'll probably in the next 2 or 3 weeks I'll finish all my construction jobs, and then therefore I'll basically just specialise in design and a bit of project management. Yeah.
Yep. And have you been working? Like, how long's it been since you started that sort of wind down process?
Probably just before Christmas.
All right.
Yeah. Well, decided that. Well, might have been October. I can't remember, but it's got to a point where you can only do so many hours in a day, and you sort of not run out of love for it, but you're doing some stuff that you don't quite enjoy as much. And I'm getting old. I've been in the industry a long time. So I sort of just want to not kick back. I love doing all the details and the design and being involved in that process, but pushing barrows and putting irrigation in is not something you love doing every day. So even though you make money doing it, it's just not that you don't have as much love for it. So
Yeah, that's pushing the barrows and doing that kind of stuff saves me from buying a gym membership. So
it does, yeah, and
and
that's where
getting
I've got to
diabetes.
make sure I do some other stuff on the side. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So um,
So, and you would have, I assume, plenty of contacts where you can get them to build your projects that you design.
yeah, I'm lucky with the amount of people I know in the industry, and that's something that I reckon moving forward, if I don't have enough people to design what I design, because I think we do some pretty cool different sort of design. I don't want to sort of hope this doesn't sound. I don't want to dumb my designs down. I think like that wouldn't be very enjoyable. So I want to be able to design what I want to be able to design and have the teams that can build it. So I just don't think you enjoy designing if you're designing something that's you know could be better. Like you can do that sometimes, but I don't think it's a very fulfilling way of working. So you want to be able to do really cool stuff still and enjoy that just that design process. So yeah. So we've got some good teams that can help.
Yeah, and they'd also want to be building those type of projects rather than the meat and potatoes kind of stuff.
Yeah,
Like,
I think so. Yeah.
yeah, look, they may make more money on those basic ones, but they're not going to get as much enjoyment out of doing something that's unique.
No, and I agree with that. But it's also a case I've built a lot of them over the years. So you sort of do try and you want to make sure they're making you don't want them to you want them to look after your clients as well, but you don't want them to go backwards just to build a really cool job. You want them to make a dollar so they can build the next one. So you've got to sort of mentor them a little bit as well. And I think that's really important to be able to do that to some companies as well. Yeah.
Yeah. And I found when because I was doing designs as well as construction, and the designs I was getting were just basic, and you could never do anything cool on the basic budget because you just got to sort of do the lawn and garden beds and the paths, and
Yep.
it's just the basic stuff before you can do anything exciting. So the projects I was getting were no good. But then as I put my prices up, the better projects started to come along with a better budget.
Yep.
So yeah, it was
Yep.
funny how that works. When I start, like the more your price goes up, the bigger the budgets are for the people who are wanting you to do their design,
Yep.
and you can do cool stuff.
Absolutely. And I reckon it's absolutely key to make sure you have the trust of your clients because then they sort of let you have a bit of flair and a bit of sometimes they say, where have you done that before? Well, we haven't done it, but I think it will look cool. And they've got to be able to trust you enough to execute it and make it look good. So I think that's part of the thrill of doing it. I think be able to try and do different things. Yeah.
Yep. And they also would want something that's unique as well, I'd imagine, rather than just a garden like everyone else has got.
Oh, absolutely. Like, I'll never build the same water feature or off-form concrete seat I just think, you do it once and you can tweak it and you can change it, but you don't want to do the same thing over and over. That's part of why they engage you to creatively come up with something different. So, and I think that's important that you do that. Otherwise, I don't know, it makes the other one not worth as much as it was because it's not unique. Yeah.
And another person I've seen you catch up with a couple of times over the years is Ollie Stevens from Hungry Wolf. Speaking
Yeah,
of
yeah,
off-form concrete, and
yeah.
you had him back when he was still running the show. He travelled over to SA and did a job or two for you, didn't he?
Yeah, he came over about 3 months ago and did another one for us.
Yeah, I saw that as well. So was that with the
Yeah, that was
crew that's doing the garden show, that one?
that was part of the crew that were doing the garden show as well. Yeah, so I got Ollie over because it was a bit poor, and it was too big for me to do personally by myself. So I got him down. It was just good to catch up with him, and he sort of gave a couple of little lessons to a couple of other guys that were involved, and so it worked out really well for everyone. And it was good to catch up with him. So he's going to be down in Melbourne for MIFGS. So look out.
Yeah. And did you do one a few years ago that he came over with as well? Like, did he fly
Yeah,
over?
I've done two with him. One of them was a Nathan Burkett job that we did.
Yep.
And that was a beautiful big job. And then another one we did was we won a few awards for as well. He came and did some big ponds and big concrete seats and stuff like that. So that was I think I had him pouring every single day for a week, like flat out. Like it was a big week. Yeah.
Yeah, because he would have been trying to maximise his time over there as well. Like, it's not like he can just duck off to another job.
Well, I
Right.
was trying to maximise his time.
Yeah.
yeah. No, he was like, well, how can we do it? So we did all the form work, and he came back through, and followed through, and just did all the finishing. So we formed, and he finished. And, yeah, and then you go out to dinner and have a few beers, and you do it again the next day. So it's good fun.
Yeah. And that's I was saying to one of my guys just today that I thought that Ollie and like Keenan Harris were two of the best at doing that type of concrete. But I
Yep.
in the last probably 3 months I discovered a new company on Instagram, and they're in South Australia called Modern Concrete Co. Have you
Yep.
come across
Yeah,
them at
no
all?
modern. Yeah, Lawrence. Yeah. Yep.
Yeah, they look like they do some insane work.
They do some really cool stuff. Yeah. So I met Lawrence a few times. Yeah. So back in his early days when he was starting out. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, yeah. And the content creation as well helps. Like they're pretty good at that.
They're very good at that, aren't they?
Are you
It's
doing
not my
it?
not
You're
my
going to say
strength.
not your style?
That's not my strength.
No,
It's
I was
no.
going to say, are you doing any recording of the process of building or anything like that for the garden show?
Yeah, I've done a heap of what we're doing just to have a cool story and just be able to put a story to each piece in the puzzle. Like, and I think it's really important. So yeah, we're trying to all do bits and pieces just along the way, and fabrication. You know what I mean, and why we're doing it. And so that's something I really want to do in the next couple of weeks is make sure I go and catch up with my sponsors again and just to touch base with them, see why they wanted to be a part of it, and just create like what it's like. I'm lucky enough that I designed it, so my name's sort of on it, but I want to make sure that everyone else involved in our team gets a lot of exposure for it all, and I think that's really important that that happens because obviously, hopefully, then someone else from South Australia wants to do a garden in Melbourne. I'm not saying I'll do it again, but I'm not saying I won't. But you don't want to. You want to make sure you pave the way so that then people sort of want to get on board because they know they're going to get looked after. So you just don't want to. You want to. That's probably crucial for me to make sure we look after those people. Hmm.
Yeah, that's an awesome idea. And I've spoken to companies in South Australia who have considered it. So yeah,
Yeah.
and it might be like you doing that might be the thing that tips him over the edge. So
Yeah.
I
Well,
like the
look,
idea.
I think it'd be great. Like it is a big challenge because like it's just you get a little bit of support from the show to go over there, but like for our accommodation and our travel, we just choose that all out. You know
Yeah,
what I mean? Like so yeah, it's just that process of gaining sponsorship, and then and we've been so lucky with the people that have supported us. But if you're building that garden for someone, it's a really expensive garden,
yeah,
and then you got to try and gather, so it's big to just the energy to do, but then to make sure you look up. So you really want to make sure you look after them, and that's sort of we're busy. We're really busy at the moment, but we've got to make sure we find the time to make sure we do look after them. Yeah.
yeah. And yeah, getting sponsors is the key to not having a massive debt like I've got because I'm still paying mine off from 2 years ago because
Don't worry,
I don't.
I'll be chipping a video myself. Don't worry.
Yeah, yeah. But that's one of those things. Like you get to a point where you think, it's starting to cost a lot, but you're so far into it that you can't start to scrimp at the end. Like you're
I
in,
had
you got to be all in.
I had that phone call today, and it was more like, yeah, it's a bit stressful, but it's like, I don't want to go in and not do as well as I can for the sake of a few dollars.
Yeah,
It's a case of like it's something that I wanted to do for 20 years. So for me, it's really important that we give it everything. And if we don't, I'd be more disappointed in that than the value of a few dollars. So it's a
yeah,
case of, to me, it's really important that if like we believe we've done a really really good strong garden, so we want to make sure we execute it the way it needs to be executed. And if we cut any corners or we don't quite execute it, I'd be let down internally that I didn't give it my all, and that's not how I try and do things. So, or
yeah,
how our team does it. You know what I mean? So it's
yeah,
yeah, yes. So I feel your pain.
yeah, yeah. Like I would have liked to have not spent as much money, but in hindsight, if like I would have done everything exactly the same, like I would have got try and get more sponsorship. But if I knew I was going to spend as much money as I did, I still would have done it. I would
Yep,
do it again. So I wouldn't do it again,
yep,
but you know what I mean? Like I am happy, like, because I love what we put together. So you wouldn't
yep.
want to, yeah, I could have saved 5 grand and then not be happy with it.
Yeah, but that 5 grand, you can make that 5 grand.
Yeah.
But you don't want to go and do the whole process again to make yourself feel like you've actually done the best you can. So
Yeah. Yep.
And that's sort of where we're at a bit. Yes, probably stuff's going to cost a bit more, but that's just part of life, I suppose.
Yeah. What's money for
Yeah,
anyway? You just got to spend it.
yeah, and make it. It's easy to spend it.
Yeah. Are you part of the MLSA, the Master Landscape Associations?
I am.
Right? Yep. Because I know you're like Clint Adams he's a friend of mine as well, and
Good mate of mine. Yep.
he's the president. So has he had
Yep.
any involvement with what you're doing?
Yeah, he does. He was the first person I rang and just told him what's going on because, like, him and I have been mates for a long, long time. So,
Yep.
and he said, "Yeah, go for it." He goes, you can do it." So, I did that, and yeah, I catch up with him a fair bit. So, yeah, obviously, all the landscape industries, we need to make sure we start supporting them, and they give as much as they can to us. So we just need to make sure we recognise what they do and what they do for everyone in the industry. So we just got to make sure. So I probably haven't been the biggest. I haven't used the master landscape industries for my career, sort of thing. The only sort of time I've sort of used it is because I put awards in for judging, but it's a case of we need, they do provide an available resource, so we've got to make sure we do support them, and so that's something we'll sort of push along with our venture into Melbourne as well.
Yep. And has he spoken to you about doing any content creation for you? Because he's got
Yeah,
Dylan
he's going to
hammering
come and
him.
do some filming and stuff like that. Yep,
Yep.
yep. And we're doing a whole heap ourselves as well, so we'll sort of share a whole heap of footage, and we're donating our structure to Little Heroes Foundation, which
Which
they
foundation? Sorry.
Little Heroes. So
Yep.
they do childhood dementia research in South Australia. So they'll auction it off at their annual gala ball.
Oh,
So
awesome.
they'll jump in and they're doing a heap of media stuff as well for us as well. So we're just trying to create a whole heap of content that everyone can use and gain some support that once we finish the show, we'll sort of then get a bit of a campaign, which one will then recognise our sponsors and the people who've done the garden, but it will give a lot of recognition to Little Heroes, and hopefully we can generate some good money for their research. Yeah.
I had no idea there was childhood dementia.
Yeah, it's pretty scary. Yeah. So we sort of chose to jump on board with that. Like, they've been a charity that's been around for a long, long time in South Australia, and it just worked really well for how we saw we could get some exposure for them by putting it at their gala ball. So we think it'd be good.
And were you over recently checking out the site where your garden's going to be?
Yeah.
And how was that? Like, did you pick it? Like, did you come out prior to when you could decide which
Yeah, I
spot?
flew over probably last maybe October, maybe even earlier, and I already had my design done by then. And I wanted to make the site I wanted, I couldn't have. I've been going a long time, I sort of knew, but I still wanted to have it on that main avenue of gardens where they always used to
Yeah.
be, because I just loved walking down there when they were all down there.
Yep.
So we've got one along there, and we just had a look and it fits perfectly. We just had to swap it over. So I took a whole heap of levels then, but then I took like Jason Talia from Yergan, and then I took Malcolm from Desert Flower, and we went over just to let them feel the space and understand the space, and we took some levels and made sure it all sat in correctly and how the feel on the heights and all that were. So at least then when we go there on the Sunday and Monday, you can sort of jump in there and you don't have to establish yourself. You sort of already know what the space is like. So
Yeah, the
I think it's
heights
really,
are a big thing to get your head around because most people just sort of assume it's relatively flat, but there's especially over 17 to 20 meters, there's a lot of height difference,
yeah,
especially
yeah,
down that
yeah,
avenue.
yeah. Oh, and then you've got to add in for the pots, and then you've got to, if you want to split level, then how do you split level? And then how do you get your steps, and how do you get all, so there's a lot of pieces you put in there that you can't guess. So, or you can, but that's when you make mistakes. So, so we just flew over for the day and just made sure we we're happy with it.
Yep. Yeah, like that's how I worked out my heights was basically the root ball of the biggest tree was going to
Yep,
be, that was sort of in the top corner. So then
yep,
you sort of got to either try and step down from that or build everything up to that.
yep, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, and it's important. Yeah, we got a big pond in ours, so you sort of you got water doesn't lie. So,
I didn't
um,
see that on your renders.
yeah, it's a big pond. So it'll be, if it works, it'll be good. No, it will work. That's always the thing with water, isn't it? It's always a challenge, but
Yeah.
it's also amazing as well. So so we're really happy with that. But that having that longer level plane it makes you then have to work in everything else even more so.
Mm.
So, which is good.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, like you said before, like it's something different. So like it's enjoyable as well. So like you could just go along and do the same odd jobs all the time, and yeah, just
Yep.
keep being vanilla, or you can actually do something different with your life and enjoy something.
I'm a bit of an obsessive compulsive person, so I do quite enjoy. I do get my head pretty well stuck into something like this, and it's I might be over the top, but it's good for you to have that passion and that drive, and it's something I've always wanted to do. So it's just there's nothing better than when you can. I was saying to the guys the other day, it was just amazing on the Tuesday night when we finish. Those 5 beers after that will probably be just as long as we're giving everything. I reckon they'll be the best 5 beers I've had in a long time because you'll just be just happy and you don't know the results or anything like that. So as long as you've done the best you can, I think it would just be an awesome feeling with your team to be able to do that. So I'm
Yeah.
looking forward to that.
Yeah, it's funny. So the one when like it was like you, it was a dream of mine to do a big one. Like I've
Yeah,
done plenty of smaller ones, but I've always heard people talking about how they don't care about the result. They just were happy with whatever they did, and they wanted it, And I always thought, hey, sure, you want to get a gold, but I got a silver for mine, and I was
yep,
ecstatic because
yep,
I'm more construction than design.
yep.
So yeah, like it is an awesome feeling just to know that you gave it your best and that you're happy with what you produced as well.
Oh, and it's a personal thing as well. You know what I mean? Like I'm a I enjoy that process, and it's not. I just like to try my best to be able to design something really cool for everyone. So yeah, I found actually it was probably the hardest design I've ever done. I reckon.
All right.
I
Is
would have
that
spent.
because you're trying to tick too many boxes, like trying to tick boxes for the judging as well as trying to like show off your sponsors or
It's probably because I've tried to not do a design style that I normally do or use different plants than I normally do. So the challenge of doing that is was great. But then obviously you don't want to. You've been to enough garden shows where you walk around and you judge. Everyone talks about how high this is and the proportions of this and everything like that. So you're sort of trying to think of it from a judging point of view as well. It's from the outside as well as what you really want to create something amazingly cool on the inside. But then you're trying to do something that's uniquely different that people aren't doing all the time because the show gardens are something you don't want to go and put something in that you've seen before, is it like constantly? So it's that challenge of trying to get a whole combination of things together with the levels and everything like that. I enjoyed it, but it was tough. Yeah, and that was the good bit about it. And then when I remember walking into the Carlton Gardens, the first time I flew over there, and I actually got goosebumps and I was nervous, and I went, yeah, well, that means I should be doing it because I don't get it very often anymore. If you know what I mean, like I do,
yeah.
but not as much as I used to. It's a really nice feeling. So yeah, so I'm really proud with what we've come up with, but it was a challenge to do for sure.
Yeah.
So we'll
Are you
see.
keeping track of what you're spending on all the materials at the moment?
Sort of.
I did up to a point and then I didn't want to know anymore, so I stopped.
Oh, look, I've like Piney's have been amazing, and they've basically grown all the plants for us, so which is cool. But there's a few things that I wanted, so I've just gone and bought stuff. Like I bought a heap of stuff. Like there's one plant we really wanted to get just to give this one look that we really wanted to have, and I sourced one of those, and it cost me $1,000 for the tree, which it's not that much, but it's $1,000. So I would have dropped probably 4 or 5 grand in plants, and it's just what you do. Like uh, part of me doesn't want to know because I've just absorbed into my business,
Yeah.
and then the other part, well, we've got our sponsorship, and we'll do some of that, and then it's just one of those things. It's
Yeah,
if I don't know about it,
I certainly
hey,
understand where you're coming from because I've got a $10,000 tree in my yard, so
yeah.
because it was I wanted it for the garden show, but so I couldn't borrow it. But yeah, so that's worked out well.
Well, but the thing is if you know what you want, it's like I don't know. Again, what we said before, you're going to kick yourself if you don't put it in there. So it's a case of that's just something you need to add up yourself if you're prepared to do it or not. And yeah, and I was to the point where just roll with it. So yeah, so I probably do have a fairly good mental record, but I have been ignoring some of it.
Yeah.
I've just been working 7 days a week, just to keep paying for it, which is fine.
Yeah. And you're building a lot of it like prior to coming over and then shipping all over. Is that right?
We want to, yep. So we sort of want to prefab it all, drop it in. We've
That
been warned not to.
you've been warned not to.
Yeah,
Why is
but
that?
because if it goes wrong, it goes wrong. But
Yeah.
we've done levels twice. We're pretty confident with what we've got. So I look because what we're building, you don't want to rely on the weather. Like you want you just again what we said about judging. You got to spend your time like our plant. I don't want to spend 2 days putting the plants in because we've got so many plants. Like our garden's full of it's full. It's just lush and green and vibrant, which is cool. But you got to get that right. So we'd rather be able to have most of the hardscapes finished, but then get them into position, finish all that stuff off, and then just actually spend the time exactly on the plantings and the style and the lights and just get that correct. Because if you get that right, that's just that just finishes it all off. So we want to have as much possible time as we can on the living plants and have the hardscapes sort of completed because building it in Melbourne in the gardens, it's really hard. You can't cut in there that well. You know what I mean? Like you'll just waste a lot of time. And if it rains or if it's too hot, then you're sort of up against it again, and that's where you can get put back in time. I reckon if you get behind in the hardscapes, you can't bring the plantings forward. You just still have to finish the hardscapes, and then the planting get sacrifices. So we're trying to make sure we don't have that issue. Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah. I couldn't recommend more doing as much as you can beforehand because you'd
yeah.
rather have it all built and be finished early than not have it built and finished late.
Well, it's just a stress you don't want to have. That's why I was saying we're trying to go flat out now, and it's a bit stressful now going this busy. But I'd rather try and have most of it finished by the start of March, so then we can have a couple of weeks off before we go over, freshen ourselves up, and we're ready to go again. Like and then enjoy the process, knowing you've done the preparation right, so then you can jump in and do it. Yeah. So
Are you staying close to the Carlton Gardens?
yeah, we're at one house in Carlton and one in Fitzroy, so we can
Yeah,
just
nice.
sort of walk because we got to bring our utes and
Yeah.
trailers and tools and stuff. Like we don't want to be driving around and stuff like that. So we're sort of hoping we can just leave a ute in the trailer just in the garden, and then we just walk to where we are and then come back and yeah. So I don't want to be. You want to do a couple of really big days early, just so that then for us though, it's also like we got to plan like cooking breakfast, lunch, and dinners for everybody because everyone's from South Australia. Like, so we got to make sure we're feeding people and feeding them good food so that they're healthy and we can do what we need to do. So that we've got sort of all that stuff added on top of just building a garden. So, I think that's all part of the challenge as well.
Well, I had Paul Pritchard on a couple of weeks ago, and he said that he's got free coffee for everyone at site A56, so they can head there for his
That's
fancy coffee.
for his crew or for us as well.
Well, he may have said it was for his crew, but if you head there,
No,
just tell him.
no, I'm looking at trying to get a coffee machine as well because we'll have it at times. We'll have probably 10, 15, 10, 12 people there at the
Yeah.
start pushing stuff in. So I don't want to be buying coffees for everyone because I'm happy to, but that's a fair bit of cash every day, like dropping in coffees. You know what I mean? Like so, yeah. I'll just get a coffee machine on site as well. It may not be super duper fancy coffee, but I reckon at the stage we'll be at,
But they won't care.
we'll shoot over to Lygon Street. Is it Fix Coffee on Lygon Street? It's just the best coffee and the best pancetta egg rolls as well. So
Don't know.
it's a
I'm
good
more of
little place
a
to go and have a
iced coffee
breakfast.
man myself.
Used to be. I've got a question for you. Who haven't you interviewed in the landscape industry that you want to interview?
There isn't anyone actually.
Mhm.
Yeah, because I've had some amazing people on. So
I know you've had some amazing people, but
like there's people have asked to come on that have said no,
yep,
but so a couple of them would be good. And like they're not big names or anything, but just I like their style and
yeah,
um But yeah, there's no sort of big famous names that I can think of that,
Yep.
yeah, that
So you
I
do
might
very well for yourself.
I might get Clint back on again. Always like talking
Yep.
to him.
He's no, I like with Clint. Yeah, like I said, we're good mates. So I don't buy anywhere near as much gear as I used to anymore, but that's fine. But we're still good mates, and I think he's great. He's good for. He's always challenging himself. That's probably the best that I think. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah,
he's always pushing himself pretty hard. So I think that's great. It's just good to have a chat with him about that. So now, look, we got some amazing people in the industry, and it's good to. Everyone's got a really unique, different story. You know what I mean? So
yeah, yeah. I've loved watching him because I've been following him for because I think I was the first person to comment on his or to review his podcast back when he started out, and I think that was in 2018. So I've been like following him since then, and it's been awesome watching him like start the fertilizer business and how small it was, and then the machines he was getting, and then
yeah,
how bigger the machines are now, and he's got his own factory now, and it's just keeping
yeah,
growing.
there's more to go there too. So
Yeah, I can imagine.
that will the stories like that are really cool. And he's very open and honest about it. That's just the style of
Yeah,
bloke he is. So it's good to understand thinking like that because you can tailor your thoughts to understand how successful people do stuff. So yeah, I think it's really good. Now I was going to say we need to have a beer in Melbourne.
yeah. Well, I'll be popping him around there. You might be a little bit busy on the days that I'm there.
Hopefully not. Hopefully we don't. No. So you drop in and out during the whole
Yeah,
sort
so
of.
I'm there building. So, like I did last year with the Indigenous garden that gets built. It was the first year they did it last year, and I'll be doing that again
Yep.
this year. So that's on the first Tuesday and Wednesday, and then I'll
Yep.
pop back in on the weekend because last year I did an episode where I went around and interviewed everyone just for like I think it was only like 5 minutes. I just spoke to all the
Yep.
designers about what their
Yep.
garden was about, so then I could release that on the Monday before it opened,
Yep.
so that people could
Yeah.
sort of
Cool.
hear about the gardens before they actually went there, rather than hearing about it after they've been there.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So
Which
I'll
is a
do
good
that
idea.
again on the Saturday, go around and talk to everyone. There were some pretty stressful people the last year on the Saturday, but
I'm
everyone
sure there
got
would have
done.
been.
And it was funny
Um,
that Emmeline and Liam, they seemed to be the most stressed, and they ended up winning every award that existed. So
yeah, I know. Which
it's a
is
good thing to be stressed.
ideas, but I'm one to want to be stressed, but then I also don't want to be stressed. I want to feel like there's a stress and there's in control,
Yeah,
and you sort of want to be stressed in control, not stressed out of control. So,
yeah,
um, and there's probably a fine line in the two. So you Indigenous garden. That's why I have a question with you. So what
yep.
makes you want to do that? Because I think that's really, I'm trying to do a heap more of that sort of style in my career, in
Nothing
my
at
next
all.
stage of my career.
Yeah, nothing at all in terms of because of the indigenous plants, like because Andrew Laidlaw and Susanna Kenda design it, and I just like because I'm addicted to the garden show, so this just gives me my little hit by doing a couple of days
Yep,
there. Um,
yep.
but yeah,
Well, you can
like
come work with me a couple of days.
I was blown away last year with the plants that were included that were all indigenous to Melbourne, like just the
Yep,
variety. I don't know, Melbourne's a big place, but yeah, I was amazed because you've got your own sort of preconceived ideas on what indigenous plants look like. They're all kind of messy and tiny.
yep.
But yeah, there was so many different types, so I got a more of an appreciation about it. But I'm not that big on using indigenous plants in my designs. Like it doesn't bother me that much. Um, I like when people use
Yep.
like there's
Well,
a test garden a lot of people are talking about at the moment in Fed Square that that they've built. I can't remember what it was for. I think it's to do with a rooftop garden, perhaps. But
yep,
they've used not only indigenous plants but exotics as well. So like I like
yep,
when people do both within a garden and not just
yep.
all of one just for that. Like, because I think
So we got a little bit of
the
both in ours.
biodiversity is good for a variety of plants. Not they don't have to just be indigenous. But you
No,
started
no, no.
using any more of them?
I don't disagree. I don't disagree at all. A big winery up in the Clare Valley called Skillicuddy Winery, and we're basically doing full Indigenous gardens with like wildflower meadows and all sorts of stuff all through there. Which is, to me, I'm super excited by it because it's just again, it's just something outside of totally what I do. And I've got a lady that works for me who loves that sort of plants as well. So I want to learn a whole heap more on that myself and just challenge myself in a different realm. And I think that's it. But I still think it'd be just good to extend yourself to do something different. So we'll see how we go. It's going to be finished in the next few weeks. So that one.
Has to be.
Yeah. Well, they've got an opening on this one. The one in Clare has to be finished, yeah, just before Melbourne. So
Yeah.
we'll see how we go.
Yeah. I like it. Working with different designers as well because you learn more about plants. And when I was working with Philip Withers on a project, um,
Yep.
one of his teams is a native plant nut or indigenous plants as
Yep.
well. And she was telling me
Yep.
about some plants that are just phenomenal, but also hard to get. That's a tricky thing
Yep.
about indigenous plants is like
Yep.
they're hard to source.
Yep. Yeah. Or you can't go down that nursery and get them. You have to be prepared, and you need to get someone to grow them on for you. You know, like so it's a 9 month process or 12 month process to get your plants. So
Yeah.
if that's the track you want to go down, you've really got to be super organised with it and know where to when seed. You know, and it's oh look, it's just it's a different challenge. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, and I think it's important we have a lot of it, but there's heaps of other spaces where you don't need to do it too.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
Um,
But the good thing about them is like because if you're growing them from seed or small cuttings, they're going to be small to start with, but because they're indigenous, they're usually going to grow well in the area that you put them
yep.
in. So they'll grow pretty
Yeah.
quick.
Yeah, absolutely. And I just think I don't think it's important to do it all like that, but it's really cool to be able to put some of it back for sure.
Yeah.
So in the right spot, you know, not everywhere's the right spot. And if you don't want to do it, if people don't want to do it, that's fine. But I still think
Exactly.
it's a
Yeah, I'm
big
big on
industry
that.
there.
Like in terms of like if I have got a certain like if I was someone who was pushing indigenous plants all the time, I wouldn't want to do it like just tell people that's what they need to be doing.
Yeah.
I would just sort of provide people the option and educate people about it, and then it's up to them if they want to do it or not. But I don't like people who sort of, tell you that's what you need to be doing.
I know, nor do I. Like, yeah, you know, like, and I think that should be a good designer to be able to read a client and see whether that's what they want to do or this is the style. And you need to be able to be a flexible designer to suit your client's wants, I reckon. And if you can't, well, if that's fine. But I like the fact that my design, all my gardens are all different generally. And I think that's part of the challenge. I think just to be able to go and take a client on that wants one this way and one that way. So then you're actually challenging yourself each time instead of just blueprinting the same thing all the time. I think I'd get a bit bored doing that.
Yeah, yeah, and there's obviously going to be some plants that are the same in designs you do, but yeah, overall they're going to look quite
Oh, yeah, there
different.
is always is.
The
No,
last question
perfect.
for you, Rob, is who do you think would be a good guest to have on the podcast?
Who do I think would be a good guest? I
Yeah,
reckon you should interview Steve Lowe, the one arm push up man.
I haven't heard that story.
Hey,
I haven't heard that story. Well, I heard him. He was on an episode with Clint actually, and it was one of the best podcasts I've ever listened to.
he's really good. I'll show you a video of us in New Zealand.
All right, right. Well, I'll have to get him on and ask him about that story. So
But he's got great insight into the industry. Yeah, and I'll send you the video so you can have it whilst you ask him.
perfect. All right, thank you so much, Rob. I really appreciate you taking the time to come on. I can't wait to see you in Melbourne in a few weeks.
No, likewise, and I appreciate you inviting me. It's been great fun having a chat, and we'll talk soon.